and the East Coast. Welcome to the Tony Rodriguez Show on the Next Gen Live. Tonight, I got Steamboat Willie with us, and of course, our police chief, Mikey Mike. How you guys doing tonight?
We're hanging in there.
Living the dream.
Hey, I like that. When you live in the dream, you're living high.
A wise man, I can't mention his name, but a wise man once told me that's how you should approach day after day. We know who he is.
That's
It's
great.
our mutual.
That
Yes,
must be a wise man.
very wise.
Hey,
wise man in San Diego.
hey, shh, it's the secret.
Undisclosed location. Mike.
Hey, so there's a lot to talk
Right
about,
to
but
the
I want to
hole.
start off with the Supreme Court. Um,
I thought you were going to go there.
So, what are your thoughts, gentlemen, on what the Supreme Court decision was today? Go ahead,
I
Willie.
yield to the gentleman from Maryland first.
I thought it was actually good because, you want to give everybody a fair shot, not just one particular group or two particular groups. Give the spectrum the chance to do what they can do. It's not by the color of your skin, but the contact of your character.
So, let me ask you this, Mikey, since you brought that up. Why do you think there's so much backlash um, from one side?
The Democrats, well, it's because they're trying to get more voters. They're losing them.
Now, we know the Supreme Court has made some weird decisions lately. And even though I expected them to do it this way, I was still shocked that they actually did it, right? Which was it was an unexpected decision as far as I'm concerned, right? I didn't think they would do that, to be honest with you. I thought they would cower and do what the far left crazy psychos called Democrats would do. Um, so I was pretty impressed with that.
Yeah,
What
they
about you,
haven't
Will?
they haven't done anything with Roe versus Wade, so they're looking at the logical choices for what's out there.
Which and I'll speak my mind after Will, but um, I want to applaud that decision that they made today. Um, the other side is making it. What did Newsom say today? We're trying to whitewash the white people in America, or something to that extent, um, instead of dealing with the real issue, right? Which is equality for all of us,
Right.
regardless of your skin or your race, your sexuality, anything. That's what this is about. What are your thoughts, Will?
Are you sure you want to hear?
Hell yeah!
Okay. Well, here's the thing. There are flaws in that Supreme Court decision, and I'll tell you why.
Tell us.
Uh, okay, they left in. Let's just take the Harvard case
Hmm.
just for a moment. Okay, so legacy is still in there. So if your parents went to Harvard or a family member went to Harvard, like the Bushes went to Yale and the Kennedys went to Harvard, if if your parents went there, you got a great chance of getting in. So this is about economics and alumni. The second thing, the second thing is gender. They allow gender to be a litmus test in the Supreme Court decision. I think it was erroneous, and I think it was irresponsible to exclude race because look, affirmative action works. It works if it is done correctly. Just ask Robert F. Kennedy.
That's the
Okay,
only
But
question.
but but but
go ahead,
hold,
Will.
hold
No, go
now
ahead.
hold on. So taking race at this particular time in history, taking race out of the equation, they should have delayed it. If they were going to make this decision, they should have delayed it. And all they did was create a new powder keg here in this country. Now, Do I think race should be a determination? No. Do I think gender or sexual orientation should be a determination? No. But the fact of the matter is that is the climate, the political climate with which we're dealing in this country right now. And I just think the timing was bad.
Well,
That's all.
no, maybe you're right. Maybe the timing was off, but we can't keep making decisions based on what's politically in the air today, right? We just can't. We got to make a decision and stick to it. Like I don't have a problem with evaluating the person as a whole, right? And
Exactly.
if they're equally qualified, then yes, let's choose the best person for the job.
But right, but Tony, don't you think? Look, they allowed. This is where I see the frailty in this thing, and almost the hypocrisy, is they created the Supreme Court decision created a sense of elitism. So if you went to Harvard, or your grandfather went to Harvard, or your grandfather went to Princeton, or your father went to Princeton, I mean, just pick any of the Ivy League schools.
Well,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
just go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to clear this thought because
No,
I'm getting old. I'm getting old, and I might lose my thought within the next 30 seconds.
join the club. Join the club. No, I
But
don't
the point
disagree
is,
with you, but
yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
no, because it's the same thing in any major college, right? That rule applies to any college. It applies to Occidental College in LA. It applies for USC in LA. I'm not sure about UCLA, but I know USC and Occidental College, where for a moment your president Barack Obama attended in Eagle Rock. Um,
That's true. That's true.
so they have the same policy, even for employees. If you work for that particular college, Occidental, your kids can work there regardless of their qualifications. So it happens in a lot of organizations, right?
I know, but when you see somebody coming out of look, and there are success stories. There are success stories, and some of the members of the Supreme Court, they were involved in that case. Some of the members of the Supreme Court are the first people to ever go to college, and they lifted themselves up by their bootstraps. They didn't have a legacy to go by. They had to do it by themselves, and maybe they couldn't even pay for it, in the final analysis. Whereas if you
Well,
got the Bushes, yeah, I'm just saying. I think the decision was premature. I'm not disagreeing with the decision. I just think the timing of the decision was premature. That's all I'm saying.
no, and you could be right there.
It would be
Go ahead,
interesting
Mikey.
now to see how it works for the historically black colleges. Because if I wanted to go to one, it'd be interesting to see. Will I get elevated or squashed?
Well, and that's another issue, Mike. Now, Mike, you just brought up an awesome point that I didn't even think about when I was reading this decision today. Uh, um, no, this is an awesome point because if affirmative action works the way that it was supposed to work, well, then you would have to be integrated into an all black college. But affirmative action doesn't always work that way.
I mean, a lot of you have reverse racism, just like you have affirmative action. I mean, if I went to a historical black college and said, I'd like to apply to come to your college, now are you going to consider me a minority?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and this is something that and well, you know what? I'll let Tony speak, and then I'll
Oh
get into
no,
this.
no. Mikey's making a good point, right? I mean,
Yeah, he is.
makes sense. But here's my theory, right? If we would enforce the laws we have now, none of this would matter. You know what I mean? If
Right.
we enforce what the Constitution says, that everybody has equal rights, and enforce that standard, we wouldn't need affirmative action or anything else, right?
Well, and Tony, Mike is right, and you're right. And
Right.
just when you think two guys can't be right at the same time, you're both right. But the problem is here, this has become, look, we have a huge, and I'm not blaming one side or the other for this.
Right.
But we have a huge civil rights crisis in this country. I mean, look, during the 1960s, 70s, even through the 80s, for God's sake, race has always been a powder keg in this country issue-wise. And so, now it's the transgendered issue.
Right.
Now they're glamming onto that. We got transgender people that Tulsi Gabbard serves with in the United States military. And the reverse side of that argument is, okay, so you don't want transgendered people in women's sports. Well, there was a time in our history where, let's go back to World War II, just as an example, where all the way up to the 1980s, too, by the way, where women serving in the military was a no-no. That was the man's job. The fact is, we are evolving as a country. We are evolving as a nation, which we better well do it quick. Our children and our grandchildren are going to go through this.
Well,
but it's just like the transgender issue. There have been transgendered people from the beginning of time, and now we're making it a political issue. We don't have abortion. I mean, abortion is still an issue, but they're going to have to come to some consensus on this thing and recognize that we have to judge the individual.
And I agree with you, but and you're right, when they politicize transgenderism, right? Great example is what happened in Glendale, right? The transgender LGBTQI, PQD, whatever the hell they are, brought in Antifa to fight with the parents,
That's
right? So now you have different groups breaking up into kind of like Republicans, Democrats, right? I call them the uniparty for a reason, right? Because there's different sects of different parties making the issue more prevalent than it ever was, right? Like, you're right, there's always been transgenders. And I've told you this before, I have served with people that were LGBTQT, right? And we all knew they were LGBTQT, but we didn't care. You know why? Because they did their job.
Right.
That's all I care about.
Well, and let me tell you something about the gay and lesbian community, or the gay, lesbian, bisexual community. And let me tell you how they hijacked the transgender issue. Here's how they hijacked it, because nobody would stand up for transgendered people at the time. So the gay movement said, well, okay, well, come into our camp. We'll defend you. Now, here's the problem. They are anti-transgender too half the time.
Yep.
They don't fit into a mold. And I'll tell you where, and there probably wasn't an organized community at the time of transgendered leaders and so forth, to be able to say, no, we should not get into an organization that has to do with sexual orientation, because being transgender is not a sexual orientation. It is a medical condition. Gender dysphoria is a real thing. And to make it a sexual issue, because look, a lot of people, there are a lot of transgender people that transition from male to female, and they still like women. Now that is a sexual issue. Or there are female to male transgender people that, when I hear about this transgendered issue, men competing in women's sports, nobody talks about female to male transgender people competing in male sports. It is a hypocrisy. The issue should not even be on the political stage at this point.
No.
And this is where it becomes a civil rights issue.
But see.
And of course, this is personal to me.
Right.
And it's also a moral I also have a moral objection to this argument.
But
Ron DeSantis and so forth.
But here's my point to you, right? The reason all this is happening is because we've allowed politicians to dictate what we want to believe in and not believe in, right? So at the end
You're
of the
absolutely
day,
right.
to me, it comes back to the voters, right? If you know that this is wrong, then vote the jackass out, right? Great
It's
example.
that simple, really. I mean, this is literally electorate 101.
Right. So
We do have the power to do that.
we have,
But we're pulled in so many directions, Tony. You know that.
yeah, but
We're pulled in so many directions,
we have a lot of things in
and
common.
trying to survive.
We keep focusing on our differences all the time. That's crazy,
Exactly.
right? And that's what
It's
causes the
crazy.
division,
It's
right?
insanity.
So you have a Hispanic person who watches, and you know that I'm not a big Donald Trump lover, you know that already, but who watches
No.
Trump throw paper towels at somebody, and they use that clip in a negative way, right? This is all he's given the people of Puerto Rico during the hurricane.
That's not true,
It's not.
but that's the way the media
Right.
projects
They
it.
portray it. So what happens to the Hispanic people that see that? Oh, Trump's a racist, right? He's treating them like crap. But no,
Yes, you're right.
and then it causes even family separations. It's done it in my family. You know that, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm not against this person and he's racist, and I don't say he's racist. So we keep allowing the government to do things to disrupt our lives. We don't enforce the Constitution, right? We bring it up when it's convenient in an argument, but we don't enforce it. You know, we don't need half the laws we have in the books because the Constitution is pretty cut and dry, but we don't enforce it, right?
Well, and you just nailed it on the head. If there's anything that could have been said on your show tonight, you just said it. It's about the country. It's about the Constitution, stupid. And here's the thing. Whether we are Republican or Democrat or independent, the question that faces all of us in this era is, will the integrity of the Constitution conquer in the next generation? Or will those who seek to erode and destroy the Constitution be successful? And I think the Constitution will prevail in the final analysis.
This is called
But I also think we're going to have to fight. We're going to have to fight hard for it, gentlemen. And if we don't, our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and those who will follow in their footsteps are going to look back on this time and say, what the hell did we do?
Well, shame on them, right? You know how I feel about why did it take so long for parents to get crazy and in Glendale to get involved with their kids when they know this nonsense has been going on for at least the last couple of years, right? So it takes a slap in the face to wake people up.
Well, and you describe it. You describe it, and you said it more than once, not just on this show, but even in conversations I've had with you. You have said you talk about the apathy of the American people, and people get lazy. Parents get lazy too, and I have to go back. I have to go back just a little bit in our history under these manipulators who convinced parents and children, and there were a few states that didn't, that COVID was a real national security crisis, that we were all going to die of the plague. And it was the furthest thing from the truth. And that is the one thing I like about Donald Trump, is he has promised that if he gets elected again in 2024, he is going to take on big pharma like they've never seen before.
Well, yeah, I mean,
they pulled the wool over the eyes of the American people, and not all of us bought it.
But it goes back to, since you brought up Trump, his biggest weakness. Did he learn from his mistake when he was a president, right? Did he learn that he needs to make sure he vets the right people for the right jobs instead of choosing people because he liked them or he knew them, right?
You know, Tony, that is not only a valid question, that is a pertinent question because Donald Trump in New Hampshire addressed that very question. And he said, you know, when I got to Washington, I was an outsider. I took advice I should not have taken. And now I know better. You know, even let's go back just as an example to Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan knew that he had people in his cabinet that needed to go, and thank God for Nancy Reagan because they they went and they hightailed it. But his administration became better. But look, every president goes through this thing, and a two-term president, there's not much you can accomplish in 4 years. Just ask one of my favorites, Jimmy Carter. However, Trump accomplished more in his 4 years under 2 impeachments,
Right.
under constant investigation. They were investigating President Trump
The day he came down here.
long before he was elected.
Yep.
Yes, exactly, Mike. As soon as he came down the escalator,
Well,
everybody predicted, Republican and Democrat alike,
so what,
this guy's never going to be president of the United
so
States.
what we
Oh, guess
need is people to get involved running for office and supporting the local neighborhoods that don't care about making that almighty dollar, extra dollar or connection and actually care about the people, right? And you and I have had this conversation. When I ran for Congress, there was 9 Republicans running, and out of the 9, there's only 2 of us left at the end that are still fighting for the right thing. The other 7 hightailed out, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, look. First of all, politics is we have always said. Politics is the bloodiest, most difficult contact sport in the country.
It's worse than hockey.
It's worse than hockey. It's worse than football, and still, there are people still willing to fight for the right thing in our country.
Yes.
And it also, Tony, you were talking about surrounding yourself with the right people, good people, and so forth. And you know, that's why I'm still fighting this with you, is because of Tony Rodriguez, because of Mike Riker, because of Al Collins, who would be with us today,
But he's having
except that's right, he's pouring Bud Light for a chamber event. Lucky son of a gun. But it does take good people, and it takes loyal people. And when you look, and look, I'm not trying to make your show a Trump campaign spot tonight. I just want you to be clear on why I'm supporting Trump down to the end. The weaponization of the justice system, the weaponization of New York, the New York justice system. What could possibly happen on the January 6th fiasco, and what Georgia still might do? Look, this is, and I'm going to say this, and this should prove the point, is that if Donald Trump had not announced that he was going to run again in 2024, none of those indictments would have happened, which proves the point that these are politically motivated. They don't want to see him become the GOP nominee. And the second thing is, this is election interference at its worst.
Well, I mean, let's be realistic. We knew once he announced this was going to happen, and he knew that, right? He's not stupid.
He knew that. That's why he's not panicking.
So,
exactly, Tony.
So,
Well,
I mean, we know that the Department of Justice has been used for the wrong reasons. We know the FBI has been used for the wrong reason. We have to have the moral courage as an electorate to vote for the right people. We got to stop.
well said.
We got to stop voting for these Mickey Mouse people. And I'll just use my favorite politician, Monica.
Now be kind on the mouse thing, because Steamboat Willie.
Okay.
Steamboat Willie was a mouse.
My favorite politician, as you both know, Monica Rodriguez, right? This council person was one of the first ones to want to defund the police, right,
Yeah,
before the
yeah.
election. They have her on video talking to the police saying she's gonna defund them because they're racist. Right? It's on video, it's all over
Oh
social
God.
media, and yet she was reelected again by the same people that are crying that violence in Los Angeles is running amok.
That's right.
This is, and this is, you know, I used to argue with Mike on this issue way back when. I've known Mike almost as long as I've been with Allie,
Sorry, Mike.
and he's always. And the one thing about Mike, hey, Mike, maybe you can get reparations.
Maybe I can.
But the point I'm trying to make is Mike used to challenge me on these issues, and I'll tell you, we did Mike and I we did a show together for a year, every week, IC2A radio, and there was time and time again that Mike would say, and I was so worried about how people would perceive it, but Mike would say, the American people are stupid. Well, Mike, I have to concede to the gentleman from Maryland tonight because you're absolutely right.
I went
And Tony knows it too.
I went and gave a guy a sign when I was working for a Democrat because he was the best candidate, and I took it to a gentleman's house. And the first thing he said, I said, "Here's your sign that you ordered." And he said, "Is he a Democrat?" Well, what the hell? You know, I want the best man for the job.
And that's what it comes down to. And you know what? You just reminded me of a thought that I had earlier today. And I want to make this perfectly clear. And this is going to piss off some of my Republican friends. But learn to live with disappointment.
Both of them?
If both of them, right? But here's the thing, and I mean this with all my heart. I have looked and I have studied the Republican field. These people challenging Trump. I recognize a few things here. I recognize the people that are running against Trump that would not be in the position to run against Trump had it not been for Donald Trump, number one. Ron DeSantis, you know who you are. Nikki Haley, you know who you are. And we could go down through the list. But if something were to happen at this moment, at this time in history, and Donald Trump was unable to finish the primary race and win the nomination, which he will, I believe. But if something happened, hypothetical, and he was out of the race, I would switch gears in a heartbeat, and I would literally get behind Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah,
I can see that he's a viable candidate.
He's the Democrat. He's the Donald Trump of the Democratic Party.
Right, and you know, and I know a lot of people talk about some of the baggage that he has, and you know, at this
Who
point,
doesn't have baggage?
no, I understand. At this
I
point,
got a bellhop.
I'm looking for a leader. I'm not looking for a manager or somebody like Biden who look as he's a horrible president, but at some point we got to feel sorry for him, right?
Oh, I do feel sorry for him. I think it's elder abuse.
He looks like a vegetable. I think Obama's hand is so deep up his butt that he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, that could be this problem.
Yeah. Well, and we need to make decisions. I personally don't think he's going to be running for president. I think they're going to find a way to take him out, to open up the field for Mr. Newsom, because I don't believe what Newsom is doing.
It's a plausible theory, by the way. You're not wrong on your theory.
Mr. Newsom he's running secret squirrel for president, right? He's putting ads out there attacking DeSantis. So I truly believe that in the end, they're going to take Biden out. And I don't mean that they're going to kill him or anything. They're just going to take him out and put him out the pasture with some excuse so that Newsom can run against Kamala. And that's an easy victory for Newsom. on the Democratic side.
Well, I'll tell you what, whether it's Newsom or Harris, I don't like those choices either. So look, if anything happens, I'm standing with Donald Trump down to the wire. Period. Not just through his.
All Americans got to do is look at California, and they go, "He can't run California."
Okay,
so he's going to run the country.
Well, Mikey, wait, Mikey. Do you truly believe the American people are going to look beyond his pretty face and his nonsense that comes out of his mouth? Do you think they're going to?
The smart ones will.
Okay, keyword smart ones, right? Or I don't want to say smart. I want to say the normal American will, right? Because I think most of us want to go back to some kind of normalcy, before this has been happening, right?
Well, I better get a tent.
At the end of the day, we can't even get people to come out vote locally for the right person, right? And I've talked about, our buddy Oscar Portillo many times on the show, right? How a kid, and I call him a kid, he's not a kid, he's a grown man.
He's a kid to us because we're old.
He volunteers in his neighborhood. He belongs to the neighborhood council. People tell him they're going to support him, but when push comes to shove, they'd rather support somebody who's got close ties to Monica Rodriguez, Imelda, right?
Well, and Oscar too. Just to throw this in, Oscar also. A lot of people don't know this. Oscar's a single father.
Yeah,
and that's a hard job too, being a single parent.
So we have a normal person. I want to use that word, that truly cares about the neighborhood and family and law enforcement and public safety and the economy. And yet all the people that said they would support him would not support him because he's not popular, or he doesn't have the money that Imelda does, or the connections that Imelda does, right? Which is sad, because that's what we need. We need our neighbors running for office. We need people with common sense running for office. We need people that know how to manage a budget. We don't need politicians who spend our money like it's not their money, so they give it away. We're about to give more ammunition to the Ukraine, right?
Well, and I knew you were going to bring that up, and here's the thing. Look at look, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but look at the connection. Look at the connection between the Biden family. Look, Donald Trump said, and I believe him when he said it because he actually did it in those 4 years, that if he had been president, if he had been reelected, Russia would have never invaded Ukraine.
I can agree.
And what does President Trump try to do? Look, you've been milking the American people in our country for years, and it's not, and it won't happen. And when he says that he could end the Russia-Ukraine war within 24 hours, I believe him. But why are we in this war now? I mean, look at Ukraine. A lot of people, they hate when I go back to history, but look at Ukraine in 1944. Ukraine in 1944. Nikita Khrushchev, John Kennedy's counterpart in Russia at the time, was Ukrainian, and Ukraine was the most anti-Semitic, the most torturous local government of the Soviet Union at the time. They hated Jews. And Trump knows, believe it or not, I know this is hard for people to believe, Donald Trump knows his history. He is not a dumb man by any stretch.
Look, anybody that succeeded in business is not dumb by any means. And if people think that, they're morons, because you don't make millions by being dumb. You just don't. It doesn't work that way.
That's right.
He's a smart businessman. And of course, war makes money for everybody, right? Except for you and I.
That's the point. That's the point.
Except for you and I.
And to get into a foreign war, and I think Tulsi Gabbard would agree with me on this thing, to get into a foreign war that we have no business in. Look, I'm not trying to minimize the foreign policy issue here. What I am trying to say is getting into this is an internal conflict. Now, does it have global repercussions? Perhaps.
So,
Absolutely. We don't have to be isolationists. But I think we are so focused on taking down Vladimir Putin that we will go. Look, let me put it this way, Tony, and then I'll yield the floor to the gentleman from the undisclosed location and the guy that happens to live in Maryland, which has to suck as much.
we're the California boys.
But we're right, exactly. We're brothers. Even we're dealing with the same thing. Yep. but look, when you look at our foreign policy history, we as a country have done so many things wrong. These regime change wars, they have to stop. I mean, unless it is a direct national security crisis, it has to stop. After 9/11, I'll give you a great example. After 9/11, we didn't go after the Saudis. The majority of the hijackers on 9/11 were the Saudis. Yep. And so what did we do? We went into Iraq. Even Donald Trump says that was a huge foreign policy mistake. And then we went into Afghanistan. That was a huge foreign policy mistake. But I'll tell you what, even though that was a foreign policy mistake going in, it was an even bigger foreign policy mistake to withdraw and leave all of our equipment there for the radical terrorists that are going to use it against us eventually.
Well, I mean,
and that was under Biden, by the way. I just want hashtag Biden sucks.
You're absolutely right on the points you hit. I'm just not a big fan, and even though that it might have worldwide implications in Ukraine, I'm not a big fan of giving American tax dollars away without taking care of our own. Right.
Right.
We have enough
issues. I understand. And you're absolutely, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We have enough issues in our country that we could use that money to do things, right? But because if they use it for us, Biden's not going to get his cut, Hunter won't get his cut, and whoever else is involved in the mix won't get their cut.
Look, I'm going to...
Our mayor in LA, Karen Bass, right? She finally said something that makes sense today, right?
Yeah.
She actually admitted that we don't have a homeless problem. We have a mental illness issue, and we have drug and alcohol issues out there, and we need to start addressing those issues. Wow. It took more than, $30 billion in the last 10 years for Los Angeles to figure that out.
Well, they're giving her a few more martinis, and that's a good thing.
So finally, it comes out that in reality, it's not that they're just homeless. There's some mental issues, right? There's some drug addiction issues. There's other issues besides most of them wanting to live on the street. And we've never spent any money addressing those issues. All we do is put in a hotel.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Tony. I interrupted.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's also an economic issue too, because under the Biden administration, and I can't talk about our personal case, but under the Biden administration, they are literally strong-arming people to be displaced. So it's not just a mental health issue. It is not just a drug issue. It is also an economic issue, and that's part of the problem in Los Angeles too.
And if they really want to solve the issue, then instead of spending all that money on building affordable housing that you can't afford, because only 10% has to be affordable, so everything else is not affordable, right? Maybe we should spend some money, and I know, most of the mental institutions were closed and the clinics were closed, Maybe we need to think about reopening them so that we can help some people, get them off the street,
Right.
get them some mental help, get them some, drug rehab. Do something besides what we're doing, because construction companies are making buku money in Los Angeles on the homeless issue that we still haven't been able to resolve.
Yeah.
Proposition Triple H. I don't know if you remember that, Will.
I do. Yeah.
$4 billion. Nobody can account for any of that money.
Well, and the same thing here in Long Beach. No wonder they want to try to throw us the hell out of here. Allie and I addressed the city council some years back, literally addressed the city council live. The audience applauded. And ever since, city council just does not. I'm surprised I can walk down the street without having an accident. But $11.5 million for a project that mostly went into the contractors and the politicians' pockets.
Well,
and the shelter never got built.
Well,
when they finally did open the shelter, you're talking 25 beds. And still, when I go to the store, I take a walk, or Allie walks the dogs or something, and we go down the street. The homeless population is no different than it was before.
No, it hasn't changed.
No.
And you're right.
No.
I mean, I saw a thing on TV where in the southern part of the state, they wanted they wanted to lease some property from the federal government. They wanted to build a big homeless type rehabilitation center and try to get these people back on their feet. And that's the last we heard of it. You could have taken that $800 billion, put that into that building, make it happen, and society would be better.
Yeah. Well, in the intentions, look, some people involved in these projects, they have good hearts. They have good intentions, but they are not a part of the bureaucracy that decides where the money goes.
Right.
And what do they always tell you? If you want to find out a thing,
follow the money.
Let's say follow the money, whether it's politics or business or whatever.
Right.
Follow the money. Well, I'm not done following the money here in Long Beach, and we're going to find out. And I have my suspicions. I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to get Tony's show sued.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it behind the scenes.
No, you're right. I mean, a prime example of money being pushed towards a politician is the speed bullet train in California, right?
The train to nowhere. Yep.
The general contractor, oh my Lord, it's Pelosi's husband. So how does he get the contract, right?
Yeah, we know that.
And it's
and we're talking not much different. We're talking not much different than the Biden criminal family.
Exactly.
But then
it's the same thing. This is what they do. And I'm not saying Republicans aren't culpable too.
No. Well,
but what I'm saying, this is why politics is so goddamn polluted.
But see, here's what I say. God damn it, American people, wake the hell up. Make a difference.
Wake the hell up.
Go vote. Don't follow somebody because they're cute or pretty, or because he's got a cute blonde wife, or because they've been there forever and you're just too lazy to change because the guy running against him is a farmer or he's just a hard worker, a blue-collar worker. We need somebody with common sense involved. We need somebody that has managed their own budget at home so that they can manage our budget and understand that there's some things we can't do. So let's not do them, right? Let's not waste money doing things we can't do. You want to help the economy? Help these kids. There's a program in this undisclosed location that I am in a high school, which is super impressive. They have a welding shop in the school, right?
Right.
They have kids. A kid just got money to go to welding school because he's such a good welder in high school.
Exactly.
this is what this kid wants to do. He doesn't want to go to college. He doesn't want to be an underwater basket weaver. He wants to be a welder. So
Right.
we don't push things like that, right? We've gotten away with helping people get to where they want to get, because if you don't go to college, you're not a good person, or you're not a smart.
That's not true. That's not true.
I went to a Votech high school, and I took printing and drafting, and we had automotive,
Yes, you do.
and we had nursing and cosmetology and all these programs, and all of a sudden now it's gone. Why is it gone?
Because
Because
we decided we wanted to program everybody that you have to go to a four-year university, right? Because if you go to a four-year university, you're going to make a lot more money than anybody else. And today I interviewed this one person who has a degree, human resources degree, and he's coming and spewing everything that he was told. Recently graduated.
I think we lost your voice.
Okay, so I interviewed a kid who's got a degree in human resources today, and they have put so much crap into his head that just because he's got a degree in HR world, he can come in and demand $200,000 a year, right?
Bullshit.
And well, I didn't say bullshit, but what he knew what I meant. I'm like, because you have a degree doesn't mean you know squat about anything except what they taught you in school. You've never been in the field.
Tony, would you say, I want to interview you just for a minute, literally 60 seconds. Would you say that because you're good with people and you're good with human resources, would you say that your time in the military taught you a lot about human resources?
Well, yeah, we dealt with, I mean, I had to deal with personal issues in the family, marriages not working out, husbands doing things that they shouldn't be doing, right?
That's right.
So, and there's more stories to that, but it's a unit is close knit, and as leaders in the military, you got to take care of your troops, right? No matter what it is. If it's personal, you got to deal with it, and that is one of the main reasons I retired when I retired, because I was just over that. I didn't want to deal with people's personal drama anymore, and have to resolve it sometimes in a negative fashion for my soldier.
You don't want to deal with people's personal drama anymore, but somehow you're still my friend.
Save the drama for your mama.
Right. And I want to get involved.
Go home to mommy.
Think about that. I love abuse.
Well, you got Steamboat Willie here. I know you do.
Yeah. But going back to, like, we have so many problems, right, in society, in our nation, that could be resolved if people just talk to each other, right? Instead of fighting each other, instead of finding.
Well, that goes back to. Yeah, go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
What we don't agree on, we all agree on certain things in this world, right? We all agree everybody should have equal rights. We agree that unions suck. Oh no, that's just me.
That's me.
Right? We agree that we want our kids to get a good education. We agree that we need law enforcement. We need laws. We need people to enforce those laws so criminals don't take advantage. Right? It is not safe.
I agree with that.
It is not safe in Los Angeles to go anywhere at night. It's not, right? And I hate that fact. I used to like the fact that I could go out at night for a walk and not be concerned about somebody trying to rob me or break into my vehicle or anything like that.
You just brought up something reminiscent.
That's my holster.
You just brought up something reminiscent to me, though, Tony. My great-grandmother, Rose Markovich, moved. She raised her children in Ohio, and she moved to Anaheim, California. She was born in 1900. And I probably told you this story before, but I'm gonna ask you to indulge me for a moment. But after her kids were raised, she never divorced her husband. She just didn't want anything to do with him anymore. So she moved to Anaheim, California. She never had a driver's license. She was born in 1900 in Austria. came to the United States in 1914 at the age of 14 because the family could only afford to send one of their children uh, to follow the American dream. Well, she worked herself down to the bone her entire life, and she moved to Anaheim, and she used to love to walk the streets. She used to. She never drove, so wherever she went, she walked, and and that's when we still had orange groves there and so forth.
Right.
It was beautiful for her. It was her paradise, and she died in 1995
Wow.
at the age of 95 because she broke her hip, and they put her in a home, and that was it for her. That was it. But she would have lived to be over 100, I think. But but if she looked at Anaheim, California today, she would not walk down the street by herself anymore.
It's really kind of sad, right? That we become what we become. But it goes back to
Uh,
like I always tell you, right? Parents complain about the schools dictating their kids' life, but they do that because we allow it, right? People allow
yeah,
politicians to continue to do what they do because we allow it, right? Everything
yeah.
that's happening to us, we can put a stop to it. We don't need violence to stop it. We just need to vote for the right person, right?
So we need to get
And if
we
they
need to
don't do
get
the
up off
job,
our lazy. Yeah,
and if they don't do the job, then you know what? We can fire you. Plain and simple. We can fire you. Get the
out
hell
of
out of
here.
here. We don't need you. But let's use Shifty Schiff with everything he's ever done, right? And he keeps getting reelected. It doesn't matter what he does. He's keeps
Because
getting
people
elected
are
in California.
stupid.
This is Mike Riker's definition of political insanity. Electing the same uh, um, do nothings
Expecting to get the
is our
same results.
representatives when they're representing their special interests. They're not representing the American people.
Think about
And
this.
look, I know we're getting at the top of the hour, but I want to give Mike 1 minute because I was going to do it last week, but he's got a thing coming up, a seminar coming up, and he's not charging people. He's actually supporting the least fortunate through this thing.
And what I'm doing is
Mike,
on the internet, we have all these scammers, mostly Nigerian and United States. And I'm putting on a lecture session for the elderly. And, you get the elderly, you get the widows, you get the lonely, and you get all these people. Well, I'm going to teach them on what to see when they see the red flags and how to know if these people are genuine or if they're scammers. I mean, I had
right.
somebody today say, "Oh yeah, I'm in the military." Well, you're in the military. Where are you at? Oh, I'm in Syria. Well, are you talking to me on a sat phone?
Mhm.
Because I know you're not going to.
Exactly.
You got to have that little bit of common
Common sense.
sense. And then you just type in the word "Alay" and they disappear because "Alay" means in Nigerian, I'm a scammer too, and I'm charging the people one can of food for the attendance, which will then go to a church and for a pantry that they may have that some less fortunate people may need. And I'm not charging anything.
So, Mike, how do they get a hold of you to get to the seminar?
You could do Riker.investigations at May.
Say one more time for us old people, please.
It's Riker, Riker, like that beautiful island in New York, dot investigations at mail.com.
All right, and I will also make sure that I post that on my Facebook page and my Instagram and my Twitter account so we get it out there, everybody.
Got my first date on September 23rd, and I'm waiting to hear back for some people who will get my mail tomorrow. And I'm trying to hit all these senior centers around here. And I got a bunch of them I think that are going to hit.
Well, that's a good thing, Mikey. That's a good thing that you're doing. We need again. It goes back to basics, right? We need to care for each other, be respectful of
Exactly.
each other, um, and protect each other, right? Because again, people are expecting the government to keep wiping your behind, and all they're doing is just spreading it more and more, right? When
Yeah.
they're wiping you. So
We got a government full of Dr. Fauci's.
Yeah, we sure do. But I'll say this again: whose fault is it, right? Because we keep nominating and choosing the same dumbasses over and over and over.
Not me.
As a general
Well,
population of electorate, we do.
Gentlemen, we're about 3 minutes to the top of the hour, so I'm going to yield the floor to the both of you. All I want to say is it is a pleasure and an honor to work with both of you week after week on the issues. And the second thing I'm going to say is hashtag Trump 2024.
He can't help it. He can't help it. Mike, I want to ask you this, though.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you saw the article on Robert F. Kennedy today, where he was asked if he would support any other Democratic candidate. What do you did you see it or not?
I didn't see that.
So his response was brilliant. I'm not supporting anybody in the Democratic Party. So that's a huge statement by Robert F. Kennedy.
Well, yeah, and if his uncle and his father were alive today, they'd be Republicans.
But that, to me, him saying that publicly shows you what kind of integrity, balls, whatever you want to call it. He's actually saying, I'm not supporting anybody but myself because I have no confidence in the Democratic Party, which is a strong message to send. I think he's got a lot of potential. I don't know if he's going to win the Democratic nomination at all. I don't think his chances are great, but I think we can start a movement based on people like him, Tulsi Gabbard, right? That are putting parties aside and focusing on what's really important, right? Which is the American people, right? The republic itself, not these jackasses, unit party morons we got running around up there in Washington, right?
He's looking at people before politics,
and
that's what you got to do.
And I think that's the message that we need to send to people, right? There's this young kid by the name of Max Bonilla, and when I mean young, he's young. He's a very outspoken young man. He is a Republican. He's a little bit too far to the right for me. But I appreciate a young person like that being involved and engaged and try to spread the message that what's going on in our republic is kind of bat crazy, right? And people need to wake up. And I love it when young people get involved, right? Whether I agree with them or not, Will knows this about me. There's some things that we don't agree on, right? But one thing we do agree on is that we have the right to believe whatever we want as long as it doesn't interfere with anybody else. And Will's opinion is one thing, mine is another, but at the end of the day, we're still friends and we can still communicate. That's what's missing in our republic today, that people get caught up on that D and R, not realizing that there is no D and R. There's a uniparty. There's a U out there. That's all it is, right?
That's right.
And if you think about it, what they did to Adam Schiff, the censor, that was bullshit, right? The only reason he was censored was because there's no fine, right? There's no fine in anything, and they don't want to be fined for whatever they do wrong, right? So they faked it, right? Oh, well, we censored him. All you did was slap his hand and let him go, right?
Right.
If you saw the event, you saw that the Democratic Party laughed at the Speaker of the House, right? That he had to cut his speech short because they were laughing at him. What kind of message are we sending to the American people when these mature adults are acting like 3-year-old kids?
Well, you got the party of the KKK. That's what they were. What do you expect?
Yeah. So it's but I'm amazed at the American people. I know it sinks in with some, how it can't sink in with everybody, because some of that, that's like us laughing at something tragic and thinking it's funny, right?
Right.
I don't think there's anything funny about being censored, right? Censored. It's not. You did something wrong, but we're making a big joke out of it. and the American people are allowing it. Right?
I know the board is looking at him also for some of that stuff, so he may be facing some other things coming up in the future.
You are more. You can
Hopeful.
believe. I don't believe that anything's going to happen to him. I think more than likely he's not gonna be a senator in California. That I'm pretty sure of.
I'm
I don't think
thinking
he'll win
Katie
that
Porter.
election.
I think Katie Porter's going to take that one.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Steve Garvey's running now, and you know what? We like to vote for popular people. We like
Steve
to vote for
Garvey,
popular people, right? He was
and
a
he's
great
got the
first baseman, so he'd make a
he,
good senator.
and he played with the ball.
I, I'm with Steve.
So, guys, I want to thank you for tonight. Um,
Thank you.
most of my voice is back. I appreciate all your help. Doing these things. I'm looking forward to next week. Next week's show. It'll be on Wednesday this time, and hopefully I'll have my voice completely back by then. Um,
A
if
lot
I
of
don't,
whiskey.
I want everybody to enjoy the 4th of July. Um, I pray to God that we never change our Independence Day to some nonsense, and celebrate what we have in America, which is freedom, right? The right to think and do whatever you want when you want. Don't let these career politicians take that away from you by making you believe nonsense or lies that they like to spread. If you want to know the facts, research for yourself. Don't listen to the media. Research it and read and understand. Mikey, one more time, how can they reach you for your seminar? Because I want people to know.
It's at Riker, Riker, investigations at mail.com. And if you can get a big group, that'd be great.
So if you know any elderly folks out there that need help, Mike is the guy. You can reach me on social media, Tony for the Republic, Tony Rodriguez for the Republic, or you can reach me at the nextgen.usa. You can reach me on my email, tony.rodriguez, d28 at gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Enjoy your evening, and thank you very much. Good night, everybody.